Well, hello, sir. Good to see you.
You too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, my goodness. Oh, such a pleasure to have you with us today. This isn't your first time in Richmond, is it?
I was at the University of Richmond like 25 years ago.
I mean, that counts. Like, that totally
It counts.
Yeah. Did you have any favorite haunts, any spots that you like to go to?
No, I don't think I ever left campus.
No, not smart man. Smart man.
Yeah.
He's about the books. About the books. That's what I'm talking about. So glad that you're with us. I think I can speak for all of us to say that a lot of us got introduced to you at kind of our formative years in terms of high school, in terms of characters that you portrayed and brought to life. So my first question was, what were you like in high school? Was it anything like any of the characters that you've played?
Sure. I had a interesting transition through my childhood. I mean, I was a kind of a dork back in like middle school, grade school, middle school. Yeah.
Wait. When you say dork, what does that mean to you? Like, what is?
Bowl haircut.
Let's go. That's what I'm talking about.
You know, it's just khakis, and my mom was dressing me. Obviously, it was pathetic.
With love.
With
Always
love, of course. And then I'd say around 7th, 8th grade, I somehow just moved to the cooler lunch table. And,
Got you.
High school was great for me. I was an athlete and president of the class a few years. I got into the politics a little bit. It was fun.
That's what I'm talking about. I love that. When it comes to you getting into acting, though, like if obviously, the athletic route is one thing, how does the acting bug bite you?
It didn't bite me until probably post-college.
Really?
But to answer your question, in high school, I did one acting class.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a little elective, and the teacher also had a writing class, so that they would write these plays for elementary schools, and then we would put them on and go around and do it. And it was stupid stuff, like, I remember one character I played, it was Sir Edward Silly Legs. So, I'd walk around and do the whole Cleese, John Cleese thing with the silly leg, which was a ton of fun for me, because,
Absolutely.
I love Monty Python and that stuff, but... yeah, so that was the beginning.
Okay.
And then after college, I went to University of Vermont for business.
Mm-hmm.
I was this close to becoming an accountant.
Thank God you did not.
Oh my
No,
God.
for real. Life would be uncolorful if you had done that.
For me.
For all of us.
You guys would have been just fine. Okay. I'm glad I took a different route.
I love it. So to get into acting from business, of all things, there's a lot of opportunity that one gets to, kind of work up to, get to. When you got your first role, what was it like to achieve that? To go, you know what? I've stuck my claim and it's working.
First role or first real role?
Both.
First role was I was an extra in the movie 12 Monkeys. You guys remember that one?
Absolutely.
Terry Gilliam. Monty Python again.
Yes.
And it was on my birthday, and I was like 25 probably, and I worked it with my mom. And we were in that futuristic airport scene with like 500 other people. So for me, that was my first time on a movie set.
Okay.
And I happened to be sitting pretty close to Gilliam, and he was working his, doing his thing, and behind the monitor and everything, and I was like fascinated of how a movie was made.
Right.
So in terms of getting the bug, that may have been the day.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
On your birthday too. That's kind of awesome.
It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
And then cut to, I'd say maybe 2 years later, my first real job was on As the World Turns.
Yes. Now, to join such a cast, y'all can make some noise for that.
Oh,
Absolutely.
God, don't clap for that.
Come on. What do you mean? Listen.
Did you guys actually, did you see? Okay, good.
Because we were in school at the time, unless you were on a sick day. Then you got to stay home and watch.
I was in school. I was in acting school. Let me tell you something. I learned how to act in front of 1 million people, which is not really a good decision.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This is what I always say about soap operas. It's boot camp for actors because you're doing 50 some odd pages per day. And it's very difficult to write at that speed, let alone act at that speed, and it's tough. Like, I was absolutely terrified my first day. Terrified.
And yet, you stunned, okay? Like, you did the job. You did it, you handled it, you stepped into it. If that was acting class, class president. Like, you made it work. I'm just saying, like, you made it work.
Well, you're very kind, but it was ugly. I'm glad nobody's seen it because I'd have to just leave and go home.
Well, funny, we have some clips of it from right now. But no, I mean, it led to other things, and I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes you have to get your start in a space that makes you uncomfortable. And as an actor, I feel like that's something that you do really well. You handle uncomfortable things really well.
You're 100% right. I mean, and that applies to anything in life, right? You've got to be uncomfortable, or you're not going. There's not going to be any growth.
Absolutely.
And that's the key, really.
I love that. I love that. Dawson's Creek. We got to talk about Dawson's
Sure.
Creek. Phenomenal series unto itself. You come on and you have a hallmark moment, listed as the first on-screen kiss between two men on TV. And the only other time that I know of, like, hallmark things like that is like Star Trek. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to being able to act in a role that has impacts for people on a cultural level like that, how does that feel for you as an actor?
It was, again, a growth experience. It was extremely terrifying for me because, you know, back in the late 80s, it wasn't even close to being as accepted as it is now. So I've got some really good stories on this. You know, I don't know if we have time, but I'll tell you a quick one.
Give us.
So when I got that job, I was hired to create a love triangle between Dawson, Joey, and Jack. The role was straight. And we'll back up a little bit. When I left New York and moved to LA,
Right.
I had just gotten fired on the soap opera, by the way, which is...
No, you were released, you were free.
Well, I was released after 18 months. I hung in there for a long time.
Yeah, you did.
But on the way out, I'm in this, 15-foot U-Haul with everything I own in it. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what shows would I would like to be on? Mm-hmm. What would be great? Mr. Nobody. I've never even been in Los Angeles. Nobody knows anything. And I'm sitting here going, well, Party of Five would be great. It was huge at the time.
Absolutely.
It was doing really well, but it was kind of towards the end of its lifespan. And then there was this new show called Dawson's Creek, where I had seen the pilot. I had seen Joey climb up the ladder into Dawson's room, and I remember going, this thing's going to be huge.
Yes.
So I'm like, that would be a great show to be on. I get out to Los Angeles. I pull into Venice Beach in this shitty apartment that I had. And my first audition was for Party of Five.
Wow.
Can you believe that? I sucked. I didn't get it. In fact, I've seen interviews with the casting director, and she was like, hey, it wasn't very good. I was so nervous. And it wasn't for a bit role either. It was to play Neve Campbell's new love interest. So it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah. So anyway, cut to a couple weeks later, I had what we call a general in the business, which is basically just a meet and greet. Hi, I'm Kerr Smith. This is who I am. I'm new to town, blah, blah, blah. And it was with Kathleen Lettery, who at the time was the head casting director for the WB network, which is now the CW, in case you don't know that. So I remember walking into this massive office down at the ranch in Burbank, and we talked about everything but acting. Where'd you move to? Where are you from? What kind of car did you decide to get? You know, it's just like stupid stuff, just getting to know. So, I left that meeting going, she's never gonna, that sucked. And as I'm letting the door hit me on the ass on the way out, she says, Kerr, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find a spot for you on our network. I mean, my mouth dropped.
Yes, come on.
So, the rest of the story, I'd say 3-4 weeks later and 5 or 6 auditions, I'm Jack McPhee all of a sudden. That's awesome. Talk about manifestation. I mean, in those days I was hyper focused, and those are the two things that I wanted, and it's amazing to me.
Dude, I love that. And especially what I love is in the sense of manifestation, you're looking at Party of Five, and you're like, this could be an interesting one, but it's kind of on its way out. And when you got that opportunity, you're like, nah.
It wasn't right.
It wasn't it. It wasn't it. You did what you were supposed to do, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks. So let me finish I'll finish the question for you. So, or the answer is what I meant.
I got you.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So I get the job, and I'm going. Everything's going great. We're a couple months in. Kevin Williamson, who's the creator of Dawson's Creek, comes down to Wilmington, and he says, "Hey, Kerr, do you want to go get a cup of coffee?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, yeah, sure." When the creator of the show asks you to get a cup of coffee, you go get a cup of coffee. But I kind of had an idea of what he was going to talk about, because every character on Dawson's Creek is a facet of Kevin's personality. Dawson was his mind, and Pacey was kind of his spirit. But I knew that Kevin was in the closet publicly, but we all knew that he was gay. So I'm going, okay, well, there's one part of him that's not represented on television. Is it going to be me? And sure enough, he said, look, we want to go down a different avenue with Jack and make him gay. And I'm sitting here going, in my mind, I'm sitting here going, oh my God, I just landed the best role that I could think of in Hollywood, and now I'm being asked to do something very, very different. And at that time, like I said, in the late 90s, it was somewhat taboo and a very risky thing to do as an actor because you can get typecast very quickly.
Absolutely.
So I was terrified. So I said, let me get back to you and ask a couple of people that I really respect and get their advice. And sure enough, they all said, do it. So at the end of the day, I said, okay, I'm in. And I said, Kevin, there's one thing though. I said, if we're going to do this, and he didn't even have approval yet.
Wow.
The WB, he had to talk Sony, who owns the show, and WB into it, and they agreed to one relationship a year, one on-screen kiss a year, because, like you said, it had never been done before, so they didn't know how it was the reaction was going to be. So I said, Kevin, there's only one way to play this, and the way that I'm going to play this character straight. To me, it's the only way to do it. I'm not going to fall into any stereotypes. I just don't think it'll be as interesting as a high school kid that's figuring this out as he goes, and it worked.
Dude, that's awesome. Literally, I'm sure that there are people that discovered themselves by your portrayal, and that's such a great guide through art.
To this day, I still get people coming up to me and saying, like I do Cameo and stuff like that, and a lot of people tell me their story, and to this day, it's like, a 40-year-old man says, look, man, you changed my life. I don't know where I would be or even alive. Like heavy stuff.
Definitely.
Had you guys not decided to do that story back then. So, as a kid back then, I look back now and I'm like, God, the responsibility was so huge, and what we did, we are so proud of, because you look at TV now and anything goes, like everything's accepted, and I think that's a wonderful thing. It makes us all a bigger community and accepting one another for who we are. So we're really proud of it.
Make some noise for that, y'all. Like, sincerely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Thanks.
We've got like a couple minutes. I want to invite you guys to ask some questions. If anyone wants to line up, you're more than welcome to. While you do that, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. The horror franchise or genre has been a part of your resume quite a bit. I mean, from My Bloody Valentine to Final Destination. Are you a horror movie fan?
I am. I mean, more of a thriller fan, really. I mean, I used to watch, when I was a kid, like the 70s horror stuff, like The Beast Within and The Thing and Leviathan is one of my favorites.
Classics, okay.
Classics, yeah. So, yeah, I'm a fan.
Okay, all right. Hello.
Hello. Hi, Kerr.
Hey.
Thank you for coming to Richmond. Awesome to get to see you. So
You
I have
bet.
a question. Oh, well, it's kind of twofold. So, based upon your role in Dawson's, do you feel that it helped you get the role in the Broken Hearts Club? And when you got that role in the Broken Hearts Club, which I know is kind of not a hugely known movie, it's a very underrated LGBTQ movie, which is amazing. Sorry. Were you afraid at that point of, okay, now I'm typecasted?
No, it's a great question. But what you probably don't know is that Greg Berlanti wrote and directed that movie, and Greg Berlanti took over Kevin Williams' spot on Dawson's, so he was running the show season 3 and on. So my story, Jack's story, was essentially Greg Berlanti's story. Kevin created the character, Greg took over. So Greg had asked me to do his first movie as a cameo, because it was I don't want to say it was an inside joke, but anybody that was watching Dawson's Creek, when I take off that catcher's mask, you're going to laugh because you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. So, no, I wasn't afraid of anything like that and being typecast, because it was kind of an inside job. I did, however, do Final Destination that same summer, which was a very deliberate choice on my part, because to answer your question, yes, I was afraid of getting typecast. So I went after the role of Carter Horton, because he's the exact opposite of Jack McPhee. So that was intentional.
Well said.
Great all around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Hello.
Hi.
Hey,
Thanks for coming to Richmond.
you bet.
I remember you most vividly from Charmed.
Yes.
Okay.
my
So, do
jam.
you have any good stories from Charmed?
I was a little, again, terrified. This seems to be a common theme for me.
Nothing wrong with that.
Terrified's a
Fight
pretty
through the fear.
powerful.
You fight through it.
It's a powerful word. I wouldn't say power. Maybe I was a little, it's unnerving. But, going into that show with the three ladies, you don't know what to expect. I did know Alyssa prior to going in there, so that was nice. But, you hear these things about Rose's reputation and whatnot. And look, the bottom line was I just put my foot down on day one, and we were friends the whole time. Rose was actually great. Yeah, so it was a really fun job for me. The storylines are really fun. You know what I mean? It's a great show, and it's lasted so long. It's amazing how long it's lasted.
Oh, it's still on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the funny things was, I'd say it was about 3 months into the job, and everybody was working and whatnot, the crew, and I just yelled out. I said, "Hey, I've been here 3 months, guys, and nobody has said how much I look like Julian McMahon." And
What's that all about?
everybody started cracking up because obviously wanted to say something, and they didn't because Julie and I look identical. It's ridiculous.
Y'all really do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So that was also, Charmed was also my biggest regret in my career. Brad Korn, I think is who ran the show. He asked me to do a full season, and I said, no, I'm only going to do 10 episodes, because I was super busy at that time, and I didn't want to take myself off the market for the second half of the year, which is basically when all the work happens. I regret it to this day, because Charmed just is such a huge thing, and I had such a great time. So, big mistake.
Let's say hindsight sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because, again, you were looking for opportunities, and as an actor, you have to explore every possibility that there could be.
You do.
So give yourself a little bit of grace on
Yeah,
that one,
yeah.
sincerely.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Come on up.
So, what's your experience with motocross? Like, did you ever ride on sand, like dunes at all?
I hate riding on sand.
Yeah.
You too? It's
No.
too squirrely for me. Because you got to ride on that back wheel the whole time, or you're just going to go down. I don't love it. My experience of motocross, I never did anything professionally. It was just for fun. I recently sold all motorcycles that I had just because I'm getting older, and I just realized how dangerous it really is. So I'm a bike guy now. I'm a mountain biker now,
Nothing wrong with
which
that.
I also love. Do you motocross?
No, but I know people into motorsports.
Yeah.
Nice.
One more question.
Yeah.
Is there any planes you wish you could fly? If you're a pilot?
Yeah. I would love to fly. I'd love to fly an SR-22.
Oh, wow.
Cirrus.
Yeah.
Great plane. Somewhat affordable, I guess. It's just an amazing little airplane. That Honda jet is pretty cool too, if you want to go big.
What's the biggest one that you have flown?
Oh, nothing big. Cessnas and whatnot.
Oh, yeah,
Just
that's
little
not bad.
guys.
That's not bad.
But aviation, for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge aviation nut, and I'm a pilot as well. I don't fly too much anymore. My biggest hobby in life is flight simulation.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, I have a little company that manufactures and creates hardware for the flight simulation business, which is, for me, is just so fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's important for folks to know that you as an actor is one facet of you, but to know that you have these other hobbies that could be big business, but yet you still choose creativity is a huge thing. Why did you do that?
Well, creativity comes in many forms, right?
So true.
Like I said earlier, I still am a bit of a nerd at heart. I'm a huge Star Trek guy.
That's right. That's right.
I love, I've just found out recently that I love computer-aided design. That's part of what I do with the company, where I've got to develop these parts in the computer first before I spit them out. So I love stuff like that.
Genius.
Love computers.
Love that. That's amazing.
Oh, okay, we got a question. Good.
Yes. Hello.
Hey.
So, I'm just gonna take this off.
Go for it.
Okay. So, I'm really big into Final Destination, and I was just wondering if there was like any scenes that were kind of almost too gruesome for you.
Too gruesome. The most shocking one that I can remember was when Amanda got hit by the bus, because for me that was the best death. I know it wasn't the most gruesome, but it was the very first death of the franchise, and it comes out of nowhere. She's like, Carter, you dick. Boom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's
And-
a couple that you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, and I think that was pretty much the first couple of days that when we started shooting. So the way they did that scene was really cool. They had Amanda stand there by herself. Then they locked the camera down so it doesn't move. And then they did another shot where the bus just drives by itself.
Oh, wow.
And then they do a third shot where the bus hits a very lifelike mannequin that looks like Amanda Detmer. And then they blended the three together, and they were actually doing it in the truck that day. And I went in and looked at it, and it just looked amazing. I was kind of blown away.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Now, as a boyfriend, that's got to be like one of those wonderful moments where you're gonna cuss me out and break up with me, and you get hit with a bus. That's what you get, girl. Don't you break my heart, right? Did anyone else feel that? Was that just me? I'm just saying. When it comes to Final Destination, this movie has kicked off this franchise that's gone in so many different directions. Do you keep up with the franchise, or do you just kind of stick with your film and just kind of?
I've seen some of the movies. I haven't seen them all, but I've seen most of them, and I didn't even know. Devin and I were talking about this yesterday. I didn't even know, we both didn't know that we were in 5.
Yeah.
Nobody told us.
Wow.
I found out in an interview. He found out at the premiere.
Right.
And he's like, why am I being asked to come to this? This is like, 20 years later, and sure enough, he's in the movie. He's like,
right.
What?
I didn't know this was happening.
Get out of here, Fly. What are you doing?
It loves you. You're like a flower.
Well, he keeps coming over to you, too.
I know, right? It's the whole thing. It's flirting with us.
So yeah, we didn't even know we were in 5, but I thought it was really cool how they just came full circle with that, and technologically was
Brilliant.
able to get the film up to look something like the movie.
Absolutely. What was it about 2009 even when it came to horror movies? I mean, that's when My Bloody Valentine came out, but that kind of seemed like a resurgence of the horror movie genre that year, because we had Friday the 13th came out, so many different things came out. What was it a thing in Hollywood at the time where horror was it?
I don't know. I mean, for me, from my perspective, I just went in for the audition, and it just kind of happened. But you're right. It was a big thing in 2009. A lot of them.
We were looking at something.
I know. Well, Jensen and I did that. They were toying around of who was going to play who in that. I almost played his part, and he almost played mine, and then they decided to switch it.
That's awesome.
Which I think was a good choice. It was better. And then Jared, his buddy from Supernatural, he had I think he did something, was it Halloween or something?
He was in...
or Valentine?
No, he was in... thank you, Friday the 13th.
Friday, yeah, okay. So there's another example of in that same year.
That's so crazy. What was it about 2009? Were we on something back then? It's fair. We did need more horror. It exercised a lot of things. I agree with that.
I was up in Vancouver the night that movie started, not the premiere, but the night it hit the theaters, My Bloody Valentine. And Jensen and Jared shoot up there, so I called them. I'm like, are you guys going to the... And they're like, yeah. I was like, well, can I tag along? I was like, yeah, sure. When the three of us walked into that theater,
oh my God,
you can imagine, it was intense. The only thing that saved us is that we were wearing the 3D glasses already, so we were kind of in disguise.
Oh my God, can you imagine? That's like the mall in the 80s right there. You're just like, oh my God, I love you. And just,
it was crazy.
No, that's awesome. Okay, so my last question before we get out of here. When you go to the movies, and this is very, very personal, so I apologize. What is your snack of choice when you are at the theater to enjoy a good movie?
You're going to think I'm weird.
Let's go.
It's popcorn. But
what you put in it?
No butter, because that is crap.
Okay.
I put Milk Duds in it.
Okay.
Because you're eating the popcorn, and every once in a while you get this chocolate surprise. It's just fantastic. I love it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Richmond, make some noise for Kerr Smith, please. I believe we've
Thanks,
got
guys.
our photographer here. We're going to do a stage selfie. So before you guys get out of here, if you come closer to the stage, we're going to have you line up here. And Kerr, we're going to have you stand over this way. We've got our